Hello. Today I'd like to be able to talk about vaccinations, a need for a better world. I'd like to start off with telling a story that was originated on Cairo's TV website about a young man named Ben Leziter. He was born with a defective liver. His liver didn't work. So because the liver didn't work, no nutrients were absorbed. Since no nutrients were absorbed, he was literally starving to death. The story came out during a time where a lot of his community stopped doing immunization, so he wasn't able to benefit from that. And because he wasn't able to benefit from that, he had more of a scare towards this stuff because the organ transplant, he had to take drugs that weakened his immune system. Today I wanted to go over the arguments behind whether or not to actually get your kids immunized. We'll look into how vaccinations actually first came about, the root of where a lot of the misinformation and why people are so anti-vaccinations now, and where you can find the necessary information to be able to get the correct information on vaccinations. Why it is necessary? Well, it's not just necessary for the health of your own child, but it's also necessary for the health of other children, for people with weakened immune systems, and other people in your community. It doesn't take that much of a strong imagination to figure out what happens when we go without or drop down significantly for the amount of people that do have vaccinations. The CDC website points out that in Japan, just a short bit ago, immunizations to whooping cough actually dropped to 10%. So this led to an outbreak of 13,000 people that got whooping cough, and 41 people actually ended up dying from that. The CDC also points out within the past year alone, 350,000 people came down with measles, outbreaks like that across the world, and the only reason that we don't have that here in the US is because of the amount of vaccinations that we do. Establishment of vaccinations also ended such outbreaks as smallpox, as cited by the World Health Organization, creating a herd immunity. Kurt Link, in his book Vaccine Controversy, credits Edward Jenner for the first person to come up with vaccinations. It's not just because he didn't went for a specific type, but the way that he actually did it. He injected people with cowpox, which is so similar to smallpox, it created an immunization for the people to be against smallpox. And smallpox at that time was just absolutely devastating and just killed millions and millions of people. Hence the word vaccination, because vaccina is the Latin word for vaccine, and that's from vacca, meaning cow. So that's why the word vaccination is from. Vaccines.gov website shows that those not eligible still get protection from vaccines, mainly because it spreads stops from the spread of it. It gives the definition of immunization or herd immunization done by Merriam-Webster's website. Just a couple of different visuals for what I'm talking about here. Now, it brings to a point, why are so many people opposed to vaccinations? Well, a lot of this origin came from a gentleman named Dr. Andrew Wakefield out of London, England. He did a small study of 12 people where children who had been vaccinated, he said, developed a inflammatory bowel disease and autism almost immediately from getting vaccinations from the measles, mumps, and rubella shot. ProCon website also cites that some physicians believe thimerosal, one of the ingredients in a lot of these vaccinations, it's also an organic mercury, is linked to autism. Now, information to the public now is faulty and just a bold-faced lie. Kurt Link in his book, The Vaccine Controversy, said there's a long argument against whether these organic mercury is actually fatal towards anybody or even is connected to autism, but beyond that is completely moot. They don't even use this ingredient in any of the vaccinations anymore, even though it's still brought up. And Brian Deere, the investigative reporter out of London for the Sunday Times, was the one who actually broke the story against Dr. Wakefield. He is quoted as saying on his website, Wakefield was payrolled to create evidence against the shot. He concealed, he misreported, several studies afterwards cannot even reproduce the findings or duplication of what he saw with his vaccinations. Vaccinations will remain controversial for a long time, and the reason being is there's a lot of false information out there. It comes to the old adage, don't believe everything you read. Young lady up in Canada named Tara Hills, a mother of 7. She was a huge person or proponent for vaccinations. She didn't have any of her kids with any of those, and then out came the most recent measles outbreak. And it wasn't as much fear as for her children as it was for fear for her sister's kid, who was 8 months old and had no way of being able to defend herself against measles outbreak. So she went to her doctor and actually decided against everything she already had and wanted to go ahead and catch her kids up all with the vaccinations. Well, unfortunately, it was a little bit too late. Not for the measles, fortunately, but her whole family did catch whooping cough. She ended up having to be quarantined and watch all of her kids suffer through such a great ordeal as whooping cough did. She shortly afterwards did get all of her kids vaccinated and never had to suffer through anything like that again, and thank goodness it wasn't something worse that could have easily taken the life of her kids. ABC News website has her quoted as, "We stopped because we were scared and didn't know who to trust. Unwittingly did more harm than good." So, with all of this information, is there any questions about whether or not to vaccinate?
Is there, have there been any studies showing whether or not, if you are vaccinated, that there are bad things that can happen? Like, have there been anything, are there bad things that can happen from vaccinations?
Yeah, as I read, and I don't know exactly where the site was, there is always a possibility of having something bad happen to you, allergic reactions that you didn't know about or anything like that goes from getting vaccinated. But a majority of the people who say vaccines are good for you, it highly outweighs that, more so than actually any of the worry that would come with that. I would want to equal life to probably like wearing seatbelts, like even though I never got in a car accident, or what if it gave me a big bruise that hurt this?
I see.
It's more of like a safety issue towards that.
Okay.
I would just like to finish up by saying, if you are a parent and deciding on whether or not to get your kid vaccinated, I'd like to mention a few places where they give you an idea of who thinks this is safe. So just a couple of them, there would be the Center of the Disease Control, think this is very safe, the Food and Drug Administration, the American Medical Association, the U.S. Department of Health, and the World Health Organization all say that this is very safe and recommend it to be able to get vaccinations. These are people you should trust and people that work at getting rid of epidemics in the world and for the safety of you and your kids. Thank you.